Hey Evan, I just wanted to talk with you a little bit about your model because I'm not saying you should change anything. You've done fine in this class, and the point of these models, these simulations, is to try to just take a first crack at doing them and understanding what they're supposed to do, and seeing if we can get some sensible information out of them that informs our design. I think you've done that. I'm not worried about it. Oh wait, I need to go first and find the results. Bear with me a second. All right. So your results are actually, you didn't do any iteration, so I don't have a lot of information, but it- you know, um, you have no windows and then you add windows. That makes sense. Typically, when we add windows, we get some gains when we want them, but we also get losses and gains when we don't want them, so we have a higher energy usage. That makes sense. Some of this basic layout of the gains and losses makes sense to me, so I don't have a reason to really question it. But then I just um, looked at your zones, and um, what you did is you just made everything a zone, and that's not really the intent here. And I'll show you even more detail. Like, so you have, um, by the way, if you have to go to wireframe, you can see what. So this is the zone, and Climate Studio is seeing this floor as a roof and this roof as a roof. It's pretty confused. It's seeing these edges of these facades are part of the roof overhang is a part of the building envelope. I think these columns out here end up being somewhere. Let me see. It doesn't matter. Yeah, like part of a column. That's not part of the envelope. Um, and you have volume to this, so it's confusing to me why this worked, and I'm not sure exactly what is being represented here. So if you did more iterations and they didn't make sense, it could just be that this is just sort of a coincidence and this worked out the way it did. So let me show you, and I'll take responsibility. Maybe I just didn't make this clearly enough. I made a video, but maybe that wasn't good enough. I don't know. But let me show you the basic idea here, just for the future. Um, so the idea is that what is our, what is the zone or the zones that we're trying to define here? Well, they are that portion of, sorry, I didn't really label these because I just made a quick model. What I did is I just um, I copied your building, brought it into a new file, and then it's here somewhere, I think. But then what the idea for these zones is that they're just a volume of air that's the inside of the zone, and it's surrounded by the thermal zone, which basically means the insulation. So, for example, if we had a gable roof on your building, that gable would not be included in the insulation if we, for example, had insulated the attic. So we just had poured some insulation on top of the ceiling. Then it doesn't matter what the roof is doing because it's outside of the thermal zone. So that's the basic idea. So these are supposed to be really simple shapes that identify this volume of air that's the inside separated from the outside by your insulation and the rest of your envelope. So that's what this white stuff is my zone. And then I did the same thing you did. I started with no windows. I got 44 instead of 39, I think you had. Maybe I had a different, I don't know if my setup is the same as yours in terms of the envelope settings or not. Anyway, so that might be why. Doesn't really matter to me right now. It's not really the point I'm making. Then I added windows and had the same effect that you did. I have a lot higher site EUI, energy use intensity, and we can see that it's because I'm adding these windows, and I'm getting a lot of gains when I want them in the winter, but not gains when I want them in the summer. Um, I then adjusted the windows slightly. It didn't do much because I think you already had triple pane windows or something. I think I went and I added. So let's look what happens. I'm looking. I would like to get rid of some of this. Well, I'd like to see if I can improve the Windows period. So I think what I did was just increase the solar heat gain coefficient for the windows in the south. See, I'm saying south triple, and maybe improve the insulation. And what happens is that I get more solar heat gain here in the winter, but I also got more in the summer. So I felt like I was going in the right direction. Even though it didn't change my EUI, I got more gains in the winter for my windows. So I thought, well, let me try an overhang on the south. And so that's the next one. And the way this works and again, I'm not saying you should do this. I'm just giving you input for the future. You've done, I think, plenty of work in this class. And so, just do what you want to do in terms of the final. Just giving you information. You draw whatever overhang you want, and then you have to add it here. There's a shading icon, and you can add shading just like you did Windows or a thermal zone. When I did that, I got it was a good result because I kept pretty much the same, and I'm not looking at this exactly, but if I click back and forth between them, I kept very similar winter gains and losses for my windows, the orange, but I dropped down the summer gains, which is what I would want. So that was a good, and that's what made sense. Is I felt like if I'm in South Carolina and I'm not shading any of these south windows, I'm sure if I go do a solar shading study that there'll be a lot of sun coming in through that glass when we're trying to cool a building. So, all right, great, I'm going in the right direction. Then I decided, well, it's even more so that I'm going to want to have overhangs on the east and west because they're going to be gaining. Uh, I'm probably not going to get any gain when I want it, or not as much gain, and I'm going to get a lot more in the summer than I would want. So I put overhangs everywhere, and that further reduced the summer gain. So I'm really doing what I want to do. I went from 48 to 45 site EUI, and most of that is the changes in because I shaded these east and west windows. By the way, there are models that allow us to dial in more closely and really study um, the exact effect of each window or each facing of windows, and so we could break this chart down even more. Anyway, it's great for what we're doing right now. The next thing I did was optimize all the windows. So I think I just thought, well, okay, I don't need any. I don't need any solar heat gain on these on the east and west because I'm really just trying to prevent heat flow through, and I don't want. I've already shaded them completely. I don't really want solar heat gain, so I just adjusted them and I dropped the solar heat gain and added more insulation or U value or lower the U value, and see that improved my setup slightly, but it really did actually not even enough to give me a higher, let's see. Yeah, I've actually, it's sometimes weird because I'm actually saving 2% more of energy, but I didn't get any more site EUI. That's because it takes it's a much bigger number. So you can make improvements without getting a full integer improvement in your site EUI. Anyway, so at that point, I said, okay, I think I've done all I can do with the windows, or I could have done more, but this proof of concept, it was working, and I've come a long way from here to here. Then I went in, I tried to adjust my wall insulation and my roof insulation, and I made it more insulative because what I'd like to do is get some of this gain, these losses here in the winter in the green down. It didn't work at all. I actually got a slight increase in my site EUI. But again, it's dropping, looks like. Yeah, I got a little bit of a drop in the saved energy. So that's something that I should look into. It's kind of confusing. I did, you can see that I am actually I'm decreasing the heat losses in the winter with this insulation. So it's doing what I expect. It's just not having the effect I would like. Same thing with the roof insulation. It didn't really have the effect I was wanting, or it didn't seem very so we've already got enough insulation there, I guess. I would want to dial into that more myself, but I didn't in for the purposes of this little demo. But the main thing I did was, after that, I thought, okay, I've got all this glass on the south side. If I take, what I want to do is, I want to keep this winter looks really good. I've got a lot of gains in my glass and not very many losses. So I'd like to keep that, but I've got a lot of gains in the summer that I don't want. And I bet a lot of that is coming on the south side, all of it on the south side, because these east and west windows are completely shaded, I think, or pretty well shaded. The north shouldn't get any direct sun. I could go shade that, and I could try to put a shade over it and see what would happen. Um, but the point really so far, by the way, is that everything we've done has made sense, right? When we make a change, it didn't have the exact effect that I would expect. I mean, in terms of I would have thought the insulation would have had a larger effect, but it had the effect in the direction I expected, and then the windows are really making sense. So I thought, okay, what if I get rid of this bottom row of windows in the south, which would be gaining the most in the summer with um, because the least sun would be blocked by this awning. And so, oh wait, I'm sorry, I did the opposite. I took out the top first. The argument there being that, let's see, that the awning, well, really that I'm not getting any solar gain there. Um, so I'm not gaining anything from them because they're being totally shaded in the winter with this large overhang, and they have a low, um, they're bad insulation compared to the walls. So let's just get rid of them and replace it with better insulation wall. And that had a pretty significant effect. I took out the windows on the top row, and I didn't lose a lot in the south, which for my gain in the winter, which is what I was trying for. Um, but and I looks like I'm not sure right now the effect. Let me go back and forth because you got to remember that this range changes over here too. So let me see if I had 30, 26. Looks pretty similar for my gains in the summer with the overhang, with those windows in and out. And I think that's because they are being completely shaded by this overhang. So what if I take out, so these bottom windows, though, probably in the summer are not being totally shaded by this, and so they probably are responsible for a lot of this gain through the windows in the summer. So let's try to get rid of those. So now I have only the middle, and that had a huge effect, right? So I went from 43 to 39, and we can see that I really dropped down in the amount of heat loss in or heat gain, I'm sorry, in the through the windows in the summer when I don't want heat gain. Let's just see how much benefit changed. We also lost a lot of the heat gain in the winter in the uh, in these windows also, so that's something we didn't want, and that makes sense because we got rid of a lot of the surface area of the glass. But the overall effect was what we wanted. We're going in the right direction. We have a much lower site EUI. Anyway, my point is that what you did is fine insofar as you did a model, you got some outputs. If you want to go back and play, and if you tried this to do what I was just showing you with your model and it didn't work, I would think it's because of what I said, that I think that you've got way too much stuff that you're defining as the zone. And I don't know how the program is interpreting that. So you could go back and play around like I did here and see if you can get any results that make sense or not. It's just something or you could do it over the holidays if you wanted to play around a little bit, which is something I would do. Maybe that sounds crazy to you, but I actually love this stuff. So I do it in my spare time also. All right. Uh, I hope this helps if you, or it clears up something that might have been confusing to you. And I'll see you later. Bye.